From the earliest known photograph of a human to haunting images of desperate journeys to freedom, here are 100 eerie photos you won't find in history books. The view from the window at Le Gras is recognized as the world's first permanent photograph. It was taken by Joseph Nicephore Niepce in 1827 from his estate in Salus-de-Varennes, France. The Boulevard Du Temple photograph, taken by Louis Daguerre in 1838, is one of the earliest known images to feature a human. Daguerre used the daguerreotype process, which involved exposing a silver-coated copper plate to light. The exposure time for this image was around 10 minutes. Due to the long exposure time, the bustling street appears deserted, except for one man who stood still long enough to have his shoes shined, capturing his silhouette. In 1840, Hippolyte Bayard created self-portrait as a drowned man, which is possibly the earliest known staged photograph. Bayard was a French photographer who felt overlooked by the French government in favor of Daguerre's photographic process. To express his frustration, he staged a photograph where he appeared to have drowned, complete with a written note claiming his death. The Haystack is a photograph taken by William Henry Fox Talbot in 1844. Talbot was an English scientist, inventor, and photograph pioneer. This photograph appeared in his book, The Pencil of Nature, which was the first commercially published book to feature photographs. Talbot's work on the calotype process, which involved using paper coated with silver iodide, allowed for multiple copies of an image to be made from a single negative. The Haystack is a beautiful representation of rural life and an important example of early photographic illustration. Charles de Bureau was a famous French mime who became widely known for his portrayal of the character Pierrot. A photograph of de Bureau in this role, taken around 1850, captures the essence of the mime's art. The image is notable for its theatricality and the way it uses light and shadow to convey emotion. Roger Fenton's Valley of the Shadow of Death is one of the most famous war photographs ever taken. Shot during the Crimean War in 1855, it shows a desolate landscape littered with cannonballs. Gustave Legray, a pioneering French photographer, created Brig on the Water in 1856. Legray was known for his seascapes and was one of the first photographers to successfully capture both the ocean and the sky in a single image. He accomplished this by using two negatives, one for the sky and one for the sea, which he combined to create a balanced exposure. This technique was revolutionary at the time and allowed Legray to produce stunningly detailed images that captured the beauty of the sea. In 1855, John Jabez Edwin Paisley Mayle took the photograph of Sergeant Dawson and his daughter. Mayle was an English photographer known for his portraits. The portrait of Nariakia Shimazu, taken around 1857, is one of the earliest known photographs of a Japanese samurai. Shimazu was a powerful daimyo and an influential figure behind Japan's late Edo period. The photograph was taken using the daguerreotype process and is a rare example of early Japanese portrait photography. Robert Howlett's photograph of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, taken in 1857, is one of the most iconic images of the Victorian era. Brunel, a renowned engineer, is known for standing in front of the massive launching chains of the SS Eastern, a ship he designed. This image is often cited as an example of how photography can convey the grandeur and ambition of the industrial age. On February 27, 1860, Abraham Lincoln gave a speech at the Cooper Institute in New York City. This speech was crucial for Lincoln's rise to national prominence. It was not just his words that resonated, but also a photograph taken by Matthew Brady shortly before the speech. This photograph captured Lincoln as a strong and determined leader. The combination of the Cooper Institute speech and Brady's photograph helped build Lincoln's image as a serious contender for the presidency. The The speech addressed the issue of slavery and the expansion of the United States, which were hot topics at the time. The Dead of Antietam is a series of photographs taken by Alexander Gardner in 1862. These images show the aftermath of the Battle of Antietam in Maryland, which was the deadliest single day in the American Civil War. Gardner's photographs were some of the first to depict the gruesome realities of war. The images brought the horrors of the battlefield to the American public in a way that had never been seen before. The Scourged Back is a photograph taken in 1863, showing the back of an enslaved man named Gordon who had been severely whipped. The image was widely circulated by abolitionists to show the brutality of slavery in the United States. But we are just getting started here. Keep watching to uncover the hidden stories behind the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. On July 7, 1865, the conspirators involved in the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln were executed. Alexander Gardner captured this moment in a series of photographs. The execution took place at the Washington Arsenal in Washington, D.C. The images show the final moments of the conspirators before they were hanged. Sir John Herschel was a British scientist who made significant contributions to photography in the 19th century. He is credited with inventing the cyanotype process, which was one of the earliest methods of creating images using light-sensitive chemicals. Herschel also coined the term photography and introduced the use of the hyposulfite of soda, or hypo, to fix photographs, making them permanent. His work laid the foundation of many of the photographic processes used today. Beckoning West is a famous photograph taken by Andrew J. Russell on May 10, 1869, at Promontory, Utah. This image captures the completion of the first transcontinental railroad in the United States. The photograph shows two locomotives facing each other with workers standing around them. This moment marked the joining of the Central Pacific and Union Pacific Railroads, connecting the East and West coasts. The completion of the railroad was a significant event in American history. In 1871, Timothy O'Sullivan was part of an expedition to survey the American Southwest. He worked with cartographers and natural scientists to document lands that were previously unexplored by non-Native Americans. One of his famous photographs from this expedition is of the White House ruins in Canyon de Chelly, Arizona. The House in Motion is a series of photographs by Edward Muybridge, taken in 1878. These images were created to settle a bet about whether all four of a horse's hooves leave the ground when it's running. Muybridge used multiple cameras to capture the horse's movement in a sequence of images. This experiment showed that indeed all four hooves do leave the ground, proving the bet. Bandit's Roost is a photograph taken by Jacob Riis in 1888 as part of his work on the living conditions in New York City slums. The image shows a notorious alley in Mulberry Bend, a crime-ridden area in Manhattan. Riis's work was part of his larger project, How the Other Half Lives, which exposed the harsh realities faced by the city's poor. His photographs and writings led to social reforms and improvements in housing conditions. In 1895, Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen took the first X-ray image, which was of his wife's hand. The image shows the bones of her hand and a ring on her finger. This discovery marked the beginning of the field of radiology, revolutionizing medical diagnostics. X-rays allowed doctors to see inside the human body without surgery, making a groundbreaking advancement in medicine. The portrait of Émile Ricovita was taken in 1899 by Louis Boutin in Bagnols-sur-Mer, France. This photograph is significant because it was the first underwater portrait ever taken. Émile Ricovita was a Romanian biologist, and this portrait was part of a broader effort to document marine life. The technical challenges of taking photographs underwater were immense at the time, but Boutin's innovations made it possible. On December 17, 1903, John T. Daniels captured the historic moment when the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur, made the first powered flight in human history. The photograph shows the Wright Flyer in the air at Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, with Orville piloting the plane and Wilbur running alongside. The Vanishing Race Navajo is a photograph taken by Edward S. Curtis in 1904 in Arizona. Curtis was an American photographer known for his work documenting Native American cultures. This image shows a group of Navajo people riding away on horseback. The Pond Midnight is a famous photo taken by Edward Steichen in 1904 in Mamaroneck, New York. This image is part of the pictorialist movement, which sought to establish photography as an art form. In 2006, a print of the Pond Midnight was sold for over $2.9 million, making it one of the most expensive photographs ever sold. The Steerage is a landmark photograph taken by Alfred Stieglitz in 1907 aboard the SS Kaiser Wilhelm II. This image depicts immigrants in the steerage section of the ship, which was often crowded and uncomfortable. This image is part of a larger series documenting child labor in the United States. Hine was working for the National Child Labor Committee, and his photographs were used to advocate for stronger child labor laws. The photograph shows a young girl tending to a machine. This image shows a group of young boys working in a coal mine, separating coal from slate. These boys, known as breaker boys, often worked in dangerous and unhealthy conditions. Like his other work, Hine's photograph was part of a campaign by the National Child Labor Committee to end child labor in the United States. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire occurred on March 25, 1911, in New York City and was one of the deadliest industrial disasters in U.S. history. The fire broke out in a garment factory, killing 146 workers, most of whom were young immigrant women. The tragedy was captured in photographs that showed the aftermath, including the burned building and the bodies of those who perished. The fire exposed the unsafe working conditions in factories and led to significant labor reforms. But that's nothing. Stick around to discover the chilling details of the Hindenburg's final moments. In 1912, Jacques-Henri Letigue captured a photo of René Coquet using his riding mechanic at the Grand Prix de l'Automobile Club de France. This event took place in Dieppe, France. Abstraction, porch shadows, is an exploration of light and form. The image captures the shadows created by a porch, turning ordinary objects into abstract patterns. The photographer plays with the way shadows fall on different surfaces, creating a composition that is both simple and complex. The use of black and white emphasizes the contrast between light and dark, making the abstract shapes more pronounced. Paul Strand's Blind Woman, 1917, is a powerful black and white photograph. The image shows a woman standing in front of a wall made of large stone blocks. She wears a black headscarf and tunic. A sign around her neck reads "Blind" in bold letters. Her left eye is open and looking to the side, while her right eye is nearly closed. The photo captures her expression, which seems to convey both anger and longing. In 1924, Man Ray created the iconic photograph Le Viandang. This image features Alice Prin, better known as Kiki de Montparnasse. She is depicted nude from her back to below her waist. What makes this photograph unique are the two F-holes painted on her back, making her resemble a violin. This surrealist image plays with the idea of the human body as a musical instrument. Edward Weston's Pepper No. 30 is a striking photograph taken in 1930. The image shows a bell pepper, but Weston's use of light and shadow gives it a sense of depth and form that goes beyond a simple still life. The pepper is photographed in a way that emphasizes its curves and folds, making it appear almost sculptural. Al Capone was a notorious gangster in the United States during the 1920s and 1930s. He was involved in various criminal activities, including bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution. Capone became the head of the Chicago Outfit, a powerful criminal organization. Despite his criminal empire, Capone was known for his public persona as a philanthropist. However, he was eventually arrested for tax evasion and sentenced to prison. Lunch atop a skyscraper is a famous photograph taken in 1932 during the construction of the Rockefeller Center in New York City. The image shows 11 construction workers sitting on a steel beam high above the city, casually eating lunch with their legs dangling in the air. Despite the height, the men appear relaxed and fearless. This photograph has become an iconic representation of the courage and determination of the American workforce during the Great Depression. In 1934, Adolf Hitler announced that all future Nazi rallies would be held in Nuremberg. The Sixth Party Congress, held from September 5th to 10th, 1934, saw about 700,000 Nazi supporters gather in the city. These rallies were highly orchestrated events designed to demonstrate the power and unity of the Nazi Party. Although the 1934 rally did not have a specific theme, it played a crucial role in solidifying Hitler's control over Germany. The rallies were a key part of Nazi propaganda.
Hard to explain away, at the very heart of the myth, the so-called surgeon's photo.
The 1934 Loch Ness Monster photograph, also known as the surgeon's photograph, is one of the most famous photographic hoaxes. The image, published in the Daily Mail, was allegedly taken by Colonel Robert Wilson. It shows a dark object emerging from the water, which many believe to be the Loch Ness Monster. However, it was later revealed that the photo was a hoax, created using a toy submarine with a sculpted head. Chris Sperling, one of the conspirators, confessed on his deathbed that the photograph was a revenge scheme against the Daily Mail, orchestrated by his father-in-law. Bloody Sunday is a haunting photograph taken during the Second Sino-Japanese War on August 28, 1937. The image captures the aftermath of the Japanese bombing in Shanghai. The center of the photo is a crying baby, sitting in the ruins of the destroyed South Station.
Show the world's largest airship heading for Lakehurst, New Jersey. Over Newark's famous auto skyway.
The Hindenburg Disaster occurred on May 6, 1937, when the German airship LZ-129 Hindenburg caught fire while attempting to land in Lakehurst, New Jersey. The disaster resulted in the death of 36 people. The airship was filled with hydrogen, a highly flammable gas, which led to the rapid spread of the fire. The Hindenburg was the pride of Germany's airship fleet and was used for transatlantic flights. The disaster marked the end of the airship era, as it demonstrated the dangers of using hydrogen as a lifting gas. The event was widely covered by the media and became one of the most infamous air disasters in history. But what about the hidden secrets lurking along this legendary road? Continue watching to uncover the shocking truth behind Route 66. Horst P. Horst was a German-born photographer who began working for French Vogue in 1931. He was influenced by surrealist artists like Salvador Dali and Man Ray, which is evident in his work. In 1939, just before World War II began, Horst left France for New York. He took a photograph on the day he left, which was later published in French Vogue in December 1939. During a fiesta celebration in Little Italy, tragedy struck when a man was killed and his body was left lying on Mulberry Street. The event turned from a joyous celebration into a sea of sorrow and horror. The image of the dead man lying on the street is an example of how quickly festivities can turn tragic. Little Italy, known for its vibrant culture and lively celebrations, was shaken by this unexpected loss. Moonrise, Hernandez, New Mexico, is a famous photograph taken by Ansel Adams on October 31, 1941. The image captures the moon rising over the small village of Hernandez, with snow-capped mountains and a sky filled with clouds in the background. The photograph is known for its stunning contrast between the dark foreground and the illuminated moon and sky. Adams' use of light and shadow creates a dynamic and almost surreal atmosphere. The Roaring Lion is a famous portrait of Winston Churchill taken by Canadian photographer Yusuf Karsh on December 30th, 1941. The photograph was taken shortly after Churchill delivered a speech to the Canadian Parliament during World War II. Karsh captured the image after removing Churchill's cigar from his mouth, which led to the Prime Minister's stern expression. The Tentons and the Snake River is a famous photograph taken by Ansel Adams in 1942. The image captures the majestic Teton Range in Wyoming with the Snake River winding through the foreground. The photograph is known for its breathtaking composition, with the river leading the viewer's eye toward the towering mountains in the distance. Adams' use of black and white enhances the contrast between the snow-capped peaks and the dark river. This image is celebrated as one of Adams' most iconic works and is often used to represent the beauty of the American West. The next photograph of 3 dead American soldiers lying on the beach in Burna was taken around the end of December 1942 or the beginning of January 1943 during World War II. It was the first photograph published in the United States that depicted dead American soldiers on the battlefield. The beach became known as Maggot Beach due to the high number of casualties. Ouija captured an image titled The Critic in 1943. This photograph shows a drunk woman confronting 2 well-dressed women attending the opera. Mrs. George Washington Kavanaugh and Lady Dicey's were pictured in their fur wraps and tiaras, seemingly indifferent to the disheveled woman. The contrast between the wealthy woman and the drunk woman is striking. Warsaw Ghetto Boy is one of the most haunting images from World War II, taken during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943. The photograph shows a young Jewish boy with his hands raised, surrounded by Nazi soldiers. The boy's face expresses fear and helplessness, capturing the terror experienced by Jews during the Holocaust. This image became one of the most iconic representations of the horrors faced by Jews under Nazi occupation. This image shows American soldiers leaving from a landing craft onto Omaha Beach under heavy fire. The photograph captures the bravery and determination of the soldiers as they faced near death. The Magnificent 11 refers to a series of photographs taken from June 6, 1944, during the D-Day landings at Omaha Beach in Normandy. These images document the brutal reality of war as Allied forces stormed the beach under heavy German fire. The images show soldiers struggling to advance amid chaos and death. D-Day marked a significant turning point in World War II, as it initiated the liberation of Nazi-occupied Europe. On February 23, 1945, during the Battle of Iwo Jima, U.S. Marines raised the American flag atop Mount Suribachi. Iwo Jima was a strategically vital island, and its capture was crucial for the United States in their campaign against Japan. The battle lasted 5 weeks, and the flag raising marked a significant morale boost for the troops.
After their defeat in World War I, the fiercely proud German people are utterly humiliated.
During the Holocaust, gas chambers were used by Nazi Germany as a method of mass extermination, primarily in concentration and extermination camps. These chambers were designed to kill large numbers of people quickly and efficiently. Victims, including Jews, Romani people, and other persecuted groups, were often told that they were going for a shower or medical examination. Once inside, toxic gas, usually Zyklon B, was released, killing the occupants within minutes. On May 2, 1945, Soviet soldiers raised their flag over the Reichstag in Berlin, showing the fall of Nazi Germany. The event marked the culmination of the Battle of Berlin and signified the impending end of World War II in Europe. The Reichstag, a key government building, had been heavily defended by German forces, and its capture was a significant achievement for the Red Army.
in the late morning.
On August 9, 1945, the United States dropped the atomic bomb on Nagasaki, Japan, resulting in a massive mushroom cloud rising over the city. This bombing, along with the earlier one on Hiroshima, led to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II. The explosion caused widespread destruction and loss of life, with tens of thousands killed instantly and many more dying later from radiation exposure. The use of atomic bombs marked a significant and controversial moment in history, as it introduced nuclear warfare's devastating potential. Still today, the bombings remain a subject of intense debate, with arguments about whether they were necessary to end the war or whether they caused unnecessary suffering. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in caves near the Dead Sea in 1947, providing one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. These ancient manuscripts, written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, date back to the last few centuries BCE and the 1st century CE. The scrolls include texts from the Hebrew Bible, as well as other religious writings, offering valuable insights into Jewish history and religion. The discovery shed light on the diversity of religious beliefs and practices during the Second Temple period.
Texaco presents Miss Ethel Merman.
Route 66 was established in 1926 and became an example of the American dream and the freedom of the open road. The highway stretched from Chicago to Santa Monica, covering nearly 2,500 miles across 8 states. Route 66 connected small towns and large cities, providing a lifeline for businesses and communities along its path. During the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, it served as a route for families migrating west in search of better opportunities. The highway played a crucial role in the development of the American automobile culture, and it was celebrated in music, literature, and film. In 1936, photographer Eric Hosking captured a remarkable image of a barn owl in flight using an unmanned camera setup. This image became one of the most famous bird photographs ever taken. Hosking's innovative approach to wildlife photography involved setting up a camera near the owl's nesting site and using a tripwire to trigger the shutter when the bird approached. The resulting photograph showed the owl with wings spread wide, perfectly frozen in mid-flight.
Biggest cheers from 50,000 fans go to the immortal star himself, Babe Ruth.
On June 13, 1948, Babe Ruth, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, made his final public appearance at Yankee Stadium. Ruth, who was battling cancer, appeared frail and weak, but he received a standing ovation from the crowd. This event was a tribute to his legendary career, during which he set numerous records and became an American sports icon. His farewell was a poignant moment, marking the end of an era in baseball. Ruth passed away just 2 months later on August 16, 1984. In 1948, the surrealist Salvador Dali collaborated with photographer Philippe Halsman to create the famous image Dolly Atomicus. This photograph captures a chaotic, dreamlike scene with Dolly suspended in midair alongside floating objects like chairs, a bucket of water, and cats. Sisters at St. Vincent's Hospital are sitting in their recreation room watching a program from a new local TV station. This scene shows the early influence of television in everyday life, bringing people together in communal spaces. On March 14, 1951, Albert Einstein stuck out his tongue for a photographer after his 72nd birthday celebration. The playful gesture captured Einstein's humorous side, contrasting with his serious scientific legacy. In 1952, photo 51 was taken, revealing the double helix structure of DNA. This X-ray diffraction image was crucial in understanding DNA's structure, leading to major advancements in genetics. On September 3, 1955, Emmett Till's mother held an open casket funeral for her son, who had been brutally murdered in Mississippi. The decision exposed the horrors of racial violence, sparking national outrage and becoming a catalyst for the civil rights movement. But just wait for a moment that changed everything. A girl running, her life hanging by a thread. In 1953, Jacqueline Bouvier was photographed sitting with her fiancé, John F. Kennedy, on a sailboat in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. The image captures the early days of their relationship before they became one of America's most iconic couples. In 1957, the first digital image was created by Russell Kirsch. He scanned a small photograph of his son using a drum scanner, marking the beginning of digital imagery technology. This moment laid the foundation for the digital images we use today. On September 4, 1957, Elizabeth Eckford, one of the Little Rock Nine, walked alone to Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, facing an angry mob. In 1958, the photograph Aspen's Northern New Mexico was taken, showcasing the beauty of the aspen trees in fall. The image highlights the serene landscape of New Mexico, with its golden leaves creating a striking contrast against the clear sky. On March 5, 1960, the iconic image of Che Guevara, known as Guerrillo Heroico, was taken during a memorial service in Havana, Cuba. On August 15, 1961, Konrad Schumann, an East German border guard, leapt over barbed wire to escape to West Berlin. On 3 May 1963, in Birmingham, Alabama, nonviolent civil rights activists, many of them students, were attacked by high-pressure fire hoses. On 11 June 1963, in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, a Buddhist monk named Thich Quang Duc protested the prosecution of Buddhists by setting himself on fire. On 11 October 1958, in Gombe, Tanzania, Dr. Jane Goodall observed chimpanzees using tools for the first time. This discovery challenged previous beliefs about the uniqueness of human beings and revolutionized our understanding of primates and animal behavior. On 16 July 1966, in Wuhan, China, Mao Zedong swam across the Yangtze River to demonstrate his physical fitness and political strength. On 1 February 1968, in Saigon, Vietnam, a South Vietnamese police chief executed a Viet Cong prisoner in broad daylight. On 16 March 1968, in the village of My Lai, Vietnam, American soldiers killed hundreds of unarmed civilians during the Vietnam War. On 24 December 1968, the Apollo 8 mission captured a view of Earth rising over the Moon's horizon. This image, known as Earthrise, became one of the most influential photographs in history. On 8 June 1972, Trang Bang, Vietnam, a napalm attack forced a group of Vietnamese civilians to flee their village. Among them was Phan Thi Kim Phuc, a young girl who survived the attack by removing her burning clothes. On August 9, 1974, in Washington, D.C., USA, President Richard Nixon gave the V sign with both hands before boarding the presidential helicopter. This was his last appearance as president before resigning from office due to the Watergate scandal. On 16 November 1978, a group of Vietnamese refugees fled their country in a small boat, seeking freedom from the communist regime. And that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to give this video a like and also subscribe to the channel for such content in the future.